Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kimberly Guilfoyle Show, live on Rumble, where facts come first and where news is done right. And we begin with big news on Capitol Hill, where Senate Republicans this week moved forward on rolling back taxpayer funds for public broadcasters like PBS and NPR. Of course, the cuts don't mean the groups can't continue to operate, but it does mean they won't be able to just rely on you, the American people, to subsidize their business. And NPR has a history of pushing bizarre headlines like decolonizing fitness, calling the Hunter Biden laptop a hoax, and amongst many other things. Here's Senator John Kennedy with just a small sample. Watch.
There's more. I could do this all night, but I'm not. Here's some more headlines from NPR. There is no neutral. Nice white people can still be complicit in a racist society. That's what your tax dollars paid for. Another one. Ibram X. Kendi says no one is not racist. So what should we do? Another one. How artificial intelligence could perpetuate racism, sexism, and other biases in society. Another. Scientists debunk lab accident theory of pandemic emergence. Here's another one. As Trump pushes theory of virus origins, some see parallels to lead up to Iraq war. Your tax dollars at work. As U.S. confronts Russia, Trump's admiration of Putin is consistent. Another headline from NPR. The history of policing and race in the United States are deeply intertwined. Another. After Biden's debate performance, the presidential race is unchanged.
And meanwhile, yesterday, President Trump signed the Halt Fentanyl Act into law, historic legislation to close loopholes, which will now allow the U.S. government to more effectively prosecute fentanyl dealers, traffickers, and save American lives. And yesterday, families who lost loved ones to this poison told their stories of turning their pain into passion. Here's Florida Angel mom Jackie Siegel, and my good friend, on her fight for a better future. Watch.
Me into more of a fighter to carry on my husband's legacy and the other families' legacies of saving lives. And so I'm turning my pain into passion. And also, on top of this, with the signing of this important the act that you're doing, we are joining with Victoria's Voice is joining with founding fathers, and we're going to start the Angel Army. So we're even growing even more under this Trump administration. Okay. We're going to spend the rest of our lives doing this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Very effective.
Thank you for helping me.
Joining me now for reaction backed by popular demand, radio host and Daily Signal contributor, Tony Kinnett. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Kimberly, always a pleasure. Good to be with you.
All right, so a lot to talk about. That's what I love about this. Every day there's something. But first of all, we'll talk about the meltdown, all right? There's a meltdown. It's one party's melting down. What is it? Democrats. Over the Senate moving ahead with cuts to taxpayer funds, to PBS and NPR. You know, what should we really know about this story? What's behind it? And, you know, the merits.
Yeah, I mean, so first and foremost, I love that Kennedy got up and started reading receipts. There are so many that he went through that are, again, just scratching the surface of the garbage reporting, not just by NPR, but by the PBS affiliates who have lost their mind. For example, back when I was a teacher and was invited on networks as long as I parroted the left's line about distance learning, as soon as I ran an education nonprofit outlet that allowed conservative voices to be published, suddenly they were canceling interviews left and right. This is pernicious throughout the entire organization. So now when we look at this particular series of organizations losing federal funding, which Kimberly, I don't know if you remember this. Didn't they say it was like 1% of their budget and not a big deal back in May?
Do you
Weren't you
remember
and
that?
I lectured about this?
Exactly. Thank you.
But all of a sudden, I'm told that, oh, these stations, it's going to close newsrooms. Honey, listen, here's the tea. If 1% of your budget is enough to close down all of your news studios, you need Dave Ramsey because you're not managing your money correctly.
Exactly. Love
Gracious.
This. Love
and
this.
then you hear Chris Coons? Chris Coons get up and said, Jesus wept. And then he waited like Captain Kirk in Star Trek for 15 seconds to start talking again. And then he says, Jesus wept. He's quoting John 11:35. He's like, because you're not funding LGBTQ plus 2IA 8765309. Jenny, call my number.
Jenny,
aid.
call my number. I was about to finish that for you.
Yeah, exactly. Then, that means Jesus is going to cry. I missed the part in the New Testament where Lazarus died not of leprosy, but of not receiving queer aid. What on earth are they smoking? And is it widely available?
I know. I don't know. It's scary, though. It's very scary. As you've mentioned, NPR in particular has had some pretty egregious, and bizarre coverage over the years. A lot of Americans, regardless of party, have to actually wonder why. Why? What's the justification for tax dollars paying for this? Something's been going on for so long and then it doesn't get questioned. It's like when you actually think about it, how did this even start?
Well, you can look at legislation in Congress for the answer to this. So if there's a really bad piece of legislation that's going to do horrible things for the American people, did they say this is the bill that's going to kill all of the Dogs and Puppies Act? No, they say this is the Supporting Elderly Seniors in America Act. And yeah, there's a clause in there about killing all of the puppies and kittens in America, but you don't hate seniors in America, do you, if you don't vote for this? That's how Congress writes laws. They sprinkle a little bit of good in with a bunch of bad and accuse you of being Hitler if you don't support it. That's NPR and PBS. They'll say, what, you don't like watching Arthur? You don't like a little bit of Big Bird and Elmo, not anti-Semitic, super Hitler Elmo on X. The previous Elmo.
Right.
That if you don't like this, then you're killing Big Bird. You don't want children to watch puppets. Kimberly, it's probably because you're a big, mean, stinky fascist who just wants people to be stupid, and then they ignore all the bad stuff. That's how they've always done this.
It's just, but this is pretty entertaining, by the way. I'm trying to take this very seriously. You're making me laugh. You're funny.
I'm sorry.
So it's excellent. Why is it that publicly funded media always seems to kind of bend towards the left? What drives that?
It's called apathy. So as you know, you have to raise your own money for the show, which means you are beholden to the stakeholders. And we said this in education. A school choice driven school is responsible to the parents to produce education results. So I have audited many different kinds of curriculum over the years, a former teacher and administrator, and I would advise teachers and administrators to link as much as they could to children's success rates and results because it drives excellence. Then you can cut all the red tape to maximize the results, right?
Sure.
So this works this way in media as well. If I was funded by the government and I could count on every year at the same time on Uncle Sam dropping off a block of cheese and a bunch of money, I would just do whatever I want. And we saw this during COVID, right? All of these individuals who were fired from federal positions, not in broadcasting, but at the State Department or at the Department of Education or at USAID, they're talking about how they have one Zoom call at 4 p.m. They're in their pajamas. They're drinking their 5th iced mocha for the day, eating their avocado toast. And they're just bragging about being lazy bums because if the check's always coming in, what drive do you have to work? With the Daily Signal, if I treated my show like that, I would be on my butt, and deservedly so.
Right, but that's the point, meritocracy. So that's what we need around here. As you know, there's been sort of an alliance between teachers' unions and some of these outlets. It's one big messaging ecosystem.
Well, not just a thin, I would say, alliance in this case. The Corey DeAngelis, Chris Rufo crew over on Education, Freedom, and Investigation, really how I kind of got into this movement. We were not only able to link several private email chains in which Randy Weingarten and individuals from NPR convinced or really coerced the CDC to change its guidance regarding allowing children to go back to school. But we've also found that Randy Weingarten from the American Federation of Teachers used to be a delegate for the DNC. Becky Pringle, the head of the NEA, when she's not screaming at people at crowds, is she is wont to do. She is an at-large member of the DNC, as Corey DeAngelis has pointed out over on X. And consistently, we see members of these media crews, they go to their little correspondence dinners and talk about being good little Democrats. And then the teachers' unions, who are actual Democrat front groups, they kind of keep that cycle of funding going. So the NPR is the chosen media outlet for the teachers unions, and then that all goes back to the DNC, and this cycle of dirty money and influence continues ad nauseum.
Yeah, it really is. It's such a cycle, but at least I guess I'm encouraged that they're showing this, level of strength and courage to do the right thing and make the cuts and actually get stuff done. I loved it too that Kennedy had all those big, how many staffers did it take at Kinko's to make all of that? No kidding. Right? I thought they looked beautiful, by the way.
Man, if I had business cards that big, who knows what I could accomplish? Look at those things. Everything. Those aren't index cards. Those are billboards. Put one on I-70 right now.
Gorge. It's gorge. So where do you think this story goes? I assume, big Dem donors will still open up their checkbooks to support the propagandists, but which sort of makes the point we've been trying to say, which is they don't need the money.
So the question that I would ask is, you're on X, right? You send
Yes.
out the occasional tweets here and there. NPR is no longer on X. Do you miss them?
Snooze. No.
No, I don't miss them. I don't miss really anyone over on that side. I don't think there's an audience that's growing for them. We've seen with the USA Today network, the Kinnett outlets, all of the newspapers around the country with the blue and gray fonting up at the top, they are hemorrhaging subscribers because they're not producing anything useful to the Americans. If you lie for the 437th time and you then have to fight a meritocratic market, it's very unlikely that you're going to expand. So NPR, again, remember BuzzFeed and Bloomberg used to be huge driving outlets, and those also went the way of the dodo when the money got cut short because they weren't delivering anything of value. In the same way, I don't eat at Perkins because I don't want to get food poisoning. I'm sorry, that restaurant chain and kind of on the out and out, if there are any Perkins open, I'm so sorry. But there are food outlets that I do give my business to because they provide a good experience. That's what Americans are looking for. Free market, baby.
Yeah, free market, baby. Meanwhile, President Trump yesterday signed legislation to crack down, and this is very important, on fentanyl distribution. Fentanyl deaths is so tragic, are the leading cause of death among teens and young adults. It's shocking. Why have we even tolerated this lunacy for so long?
Do you want my real answer for this, or do you want the publicly approved on air answer for this one?
Why don't you give me the real answer? Then we'll get the publicly approved answer, and then we'll decide which one we're going with. So we can clip that
and send that later. Got it. The real answer is because the United States, though it has occupied Mexico City successfully twice, and does in fact know how to set straight the country that has gone through 11 different governments. I don't mean 11 presidential terms, 11 different kinds of dictatorships, republics, parliamentary groups since 1827, that fallen empire, which is run by the Sinaloa cartel, is the largest threat to American national security. And the United States pretending to treat the Claudia Sheinbaum regime as though it is a legitimate state is an insult to Americans. It's an insult to the people of Mexico. I'm not saying we go build democracies. I'm not saying we go do any George Bushian style foreign policy, whatever, but I do believe that the United States needs to treat the Mexican states under the cartel's influence, which is peddling and pushing more fentanyl than any place on earth via the precursor chemicals it gets from China. It needs to be treated as an unfettered war zone, because that's what it is, no matter what coat of paint they put on it. So when Trump treats this seriously and he starts signing federal legislation toughening fentanyl drug penalties, he's making it clear that not only is the border strong, but also what happens in this country afterwards is appropriate. And, the more politically correct answer would be that we need to increase resources to certain areas, but I think saying it explicitly is a lot more effective.
I think you're right about that. And it sort of ties into the Democrats' attacks, right? On ICE, on everything else. They fundamentally oppose security.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Benjamin's song of the Antifa terror cells, Andy No from the Post Millennial and I were working to try to get this FBI national manhunt out for this guy that inspired the 11 individuals to participate in that horrible ambush that was going to kill ICE officers down in Alvarado, Texas. They finally nabbed the guy. This is, again, a national situation where you have congresswomen running around trying to say it's very inspiring, to see all of these attacks on federal law enforcement. We're dealing with domestic terrorism that's constantly encouraged. It's a horrible, horrible situation that deserves a serious response. And again, this administration taking it seriously isn't a surprise. I would certainly love to see Rubio and Noem and Vance and Trump and the many other members of this administration continue to give brass knuckles to each and every one of these fools.
Yeah, and you had a piece earlier this summer on legacy media's, bizarre relationship with terrorism. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So there appears to be this kind of momentary psychological shift that a lot of outlets will do, not to overtly claim that terrorism is good, but they'll soft pedal any kinds of descriptions about the violence. We all know this, the mostly peaceful thing from the George Floyd riots, of course. This is broadly carried over with every pundit, every news anchor, even how they cover what B-roll footage they show. The main photo provider that a lot of us use, Getty Images, their photographers around the country, I've stood next to them as they've been photographing, for example, the riots at the DNC in Chicago, and I would watch them delete certain photos because they made certain parties in the United States look too good or too bad. And so this relationship with terrorism essentially comes in a aiding and abetting by omission, where we're not going to cover perhaps the large Wookiee-looking individual trying to shove a flagpole through the window of a Humvee, but we will show you the children running from tear gas. And please don't ask any questions about why there are children at a marijuana farm ICE protest.
Outrageous. Unbelievable. Like, we're the bad guys because we're saying, why is that happening? How has this been allowed? And imagine if President Trump wasn't in office. That would just be continuing and going on. Not to mention all the minors that were just handed out to people without any background checks to the people that were taking them in.
I got to ask you, and I want you to be honest with me here. Some real investigative journalism answers here. Have you ever felt the need to take your child to a place where there might be open tear gas canisters thrown?
Absolutely not.
You don't say.
Right.
I'm shocked. Wait, doesn't every parent get the need to put their kids in danger every single day? Oh, wait, no, they don't? Ah, well, that's quite interesting. If only some of our officials on the blue side of the aisle actually considered such common sense.
It's outrageous, actually. I mean, I don't know. It shocks the conscience, And then here's another thing I really got to get your take on, because I've been thinking today, oh my God, what's he going to say about this? Because this New York City mayor's race, what the heck? This guy is everywhere. He's like the new Manchurian candidate, okay? No one is dropping out. Cuomo running as an independent, and an apparent communist now is leading the polls with AOC as his personal cheerleader.
I'm sorry. I don't know how much longer we have to call this guy an apparent or alleged communist. Every time I log on social media, every day now, there's a new quote we've unearthed because this guy has broadcast his entire life and failed rapping career on social media. There's yet another quote where he is directly parroting Marx. From this morning, Zoran Mamdani says he'd be in favor of the, quote, abolition of private property, end quote. How many times does this guy directly have to quote Marx? Seizing the means of production, focusing state power on allotting a responsibility based on need, things like that. How many times does this guy have to directly go to the Marxian ethos out loud before we stop pretending that he's just an alleged communist? Just kind of one in the background, as many as are of the hosts and journos on the left try to claim, or the fact-checking articles. Now he's hosting little fancy brunches in Washington, D.C. and teaching us all, here's how you take a selfie. Covered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know,
but there's so
much, honey, there's so much hype about it, though. He's just it's everywhere. Every time I walk past the TV, he's on it.
But this is the Kamala Harris thing all over again. How many elections are you and I going to sit through where the Democrats get spanked, and then afterward they say, well, it's clearly the messaging. You have Jon Stewart sitting down with Jen Circleback Psaki. She's like, clearly what we have is a lack of good messaging, as though they hadn't just pimped out Queen Latifah to praise Kamala Harris for an entire campaign cycle.
I mean, that was so crazy. How many coconut trees do these people have? Falling off the coconut tree. I don't know.
The significance of time, Kimberly.
I know. Oh my gosh. And then Kamala's putting out stuff that she's going to be like the governor of California. I mean, it's so.
Yes. Yes, I'm so excited to see the campaign contribution that Willie Brown is going to be pushing under the desk for that campaign.
Yeah. It's all very
Goodness
interesting,
gracious.
isn't it?
I mean, and not as great as Bernie Sanders getting all up and hot and bothered because we got to get behind Mandami, the socialist. The Kamala did not work out. But now we've got a young man who believes in things like giving me lots of money. Lots and lots of money. Yes.
You know what?
Great direction.
We're laughing, but stranger things could happen.
You
That's
have to
what's
laugh
scary.
because if you don't, you'll either cry or die of cringe. The Democrats are just
Right.
an episode of The Office. It's one large cold open of Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy.
I think that's actually very true. Tough but fair. Tough but fair. Oh my God. Okay, now we're going to talk. Let's do Seinfeld episode. So that Seinfeld episode, you know, where Kramer is working as Santa and he talks about
yeah.
the means of production.
Kramer, you're taking all the money from Democrat voters? Why, I too, Jerry. After all, I'm a socialist now.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
Oh my God.
Sorry, you can't make references. I start doing impressions, and some of them are really terrible. And then
No, they're very good. And by the way, appropriate. I mean, if the shoe fits, I mean, that's what we're seeing here over and over again. So where do we go
wild.
from here? Tell us what you got your eye on for the future, what you would like to see Congress or the Senate or President Trump do that you think sorely needs attention.
I mean, first, I'd like to see President Trump burn the United Nations to the ground, because that's not something that needs to really be debated. If we can get rid of NPR and PBS off the tax dollar, why on God's green earth am I spending even more of my money than the SALT deductions already go to New York in terms of the UN? Get rid of that. I think that Trump should, again, as he is daddy of the NATO crew, I think
Right.
that should just be what we consider the UN. I would much rather listen to what the Dutch are concerned about than I would about some African country who's changed names 36 times in the last 15 minutes. Sorry.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I mean, again, if you can do that, I think that realistically, you start to gain a momentum of real change in this country. Other than that, my focus is on how the Democrats refuse to take any window of like stalled momentum, like the Epstein stuff, right? It's a moment that wasn't great. There's a little bit of rockiness. Here we have yet another window. The Democrats could have really driven it to Trump. And instead, Hank Johnson recorded a music video, and one senator had a heart attack on the floor. And now the Democrats have decided that Hakeem Jeffries needs to be given more time to speak in front of the American people, which is historically a really bad idea. So
he's always up there too. He's always on the TV. I see it all the time.
I'm amazed that between Chuck Schumer, AOC, and then Jasmine Crockett, I'm amazed at how they don't understand that they're not going to get Wes Moore or Josh Shapiro or Senator Fetterman, guys that, although they vote like hot garbage, know how to act normal on camera.
Right.
I mean, why aren't you at least bringing that in? But as we found out after the election, Ken Martin of the DNC directly condemned like the 5 Democrats that tried to meet in Virginia and suggest maybe we go to church. Maybe we go to like a gun convention and meet people. Maybe we start waving the American flag. I kid you not. According to Adam Rent's Political article, those were 3 actual proposals. Ken Martin of the DNC said, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to have Ilhan Omar and her weird look-alike mayor candidate talk about how Somalia is their true home. Well done, Dems. Well done.
Weird look-alike. I love it. Yeah, it's unbelievable. All right, tell us everything we need to know, where to follow you, find you, get more of this witty repartee.
Oh, goodness. Well, if you're a masochist, you can follow me on X at The Tonus, TheTonus. Our show is up every weeknight on Rumble and YouTube. You search Daily Signal, you'll find it. It's in the live playlist there. That's about it.
Oh, my God. We love you so much, Tony Kinnett. He's a superstar, honey. Daily Signal columnist. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Kimberly. Your check's in the mail.
Exactly. All right. And coming up, more of the media's reckless rhetoric. We're going to break it all down. And in the meantime, be sure to check out the good folks at the 1775 Coffee Company. We talk about it all the time. Don't compromise on taste, on quality, or your values. And 1775 coffee is brewed to perfection, crafted with precision, and it is built on patriotism. The farm-to-cup process means there is quality, authenticity, and sustainability from start to finish. All the beans are ethically and exclusively single-sourced. So why not try 1775 coffee today? Go to 1775coffee.com/KG and you can get 15% off your first order. Now the media is doubling down on more reckless rhetoric. For example, on MSDNC this week, there was even a segment about, quote, lawful violence against ICE. I am not kidding you. Watch.
One thing, the transformation. Because you were a prosecutor, I want to ask you, there are legitimate reasons why some enforcement agencies, some police agencies go undercover or, do things in shadows to achieve certain things. I would assume that's specific and it needs to comport with some laws.
Exactly. There are very serious legal restrictions around the use of, for instance, FBI agents as undercover operatives. Very strict rules regarding how it's done, what they can do, what they can't do. But you know what I've never seen a federal agent working a case do is pull a mask up so nobody knows who they are and go out and terrorize a civilian population. And I think it's important for us at this point to be very plain speaking when we say that this is not normal, it's not acceptable, and it's a danger sign. We're well past the point where we can just identify danger signs and say, oh, there might be problems down the road. The problems are here, they're in the right now. And as we see people being pulled off the streets, the danger to law enforcement, quite frankly, is that when you're masked like that and people don't know who you are, someone might exercise their lawful right of self-defense to protect themselves, thinking they're being kidnapped. So the notion that this is for law enforcement's protection is utterly ludicrous, and we need to do away with that.
Guilfoyle here, and I'm so excited to introduce the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program. With our benefits program, you get a range of lifestyle benefits at an affordable price, so you can save money and stay secure. For example, as a member, you will access exclusive discounts with NB Cash Back, so you can save more on your everyday expenses like groceries, restaurants, and even auto services. And with NB Travel, you can experience more but spend less by enjoying deep discounts on flights, hotels, entertainment, and so much more. These benefits are available to you and your immediate family to use anytime, anywhere. We also offer identity theft protection, so you can stay on top of any unauthorized, fraudulent, or illegal activity. And access free and discounted legal services, so you can protect your rights and receive top legal advice without breaking the bank. Plus, enjoy peace of mind on the highway with our roadside assistance program. And even take care of your furry friends with discounts on pet food, toys, medicine, grooming, and even trips to the vet. Our program is designed specifically for America First patriots like you, who understand the importance of letting your dollars reflect your values and supporting companies who support you. And the best part of all of this, our benefits are at below market prices, so you can enjoy all of them while living the Patriot lifestyle to the fullest. So don't miss out. Visit our website at patriotbenefits.net. That's patriotbenefits.net. Thank you again for choosing the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program, where real benefits and real savings are our top priority. Join us today and start saving now. Kimberly Guilfoyle here, and I'm so excited to introduce the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program. With our benefits program, you get a range of lifestyle benefits at an affordable price, so you can save money and stay secure. For example, as a member, you will access exclusive discounts with NB Cash Back, so you can save more on your everyday expenses like groceries, restaurants, and even auto services. And with NB Travel, you can experience more but spend less by enjoying deep discounts on flights, hotels, entertainment, and so much more. These benefits are available to you and your immediate family to use anytime, anywhere. We also offer identity theft protection, so you can stay on top of any unauthorized, fraudulent, or illegal activity. And access free and discounted legal services, so you can protect your rights and receive top legal advice without breaking the bank. Plus, enjoy peace of mind on the highway with our roadside assistance program. And even take care of your furry friends with discounts on pet food, toys, medicine, grooming, and even trips to the vet. Our program is designed specifically for America First patriots like you, who understand the importance of letting your dollars reflect your values and supporting companies who support you. And the best part of all of this, our benefits are at below market prices, so you can enjoy all of them while living the Patriot lifestyle to the fullest. So don't miss out. Visit our website at patriotbenefits.net. That's patriotbenefits.net. Thank you again for choosing the Patriot Lifestyle Benefits Program, where real benefits and real savings are our top priority. Join us today and start saving now. Now, all of the Democrats' behavior is shocking, right? But not surprising, and just another example of left-wing lunatics trying to normalize violence against their political opponents instead of doing what's best to make our nation great again. And joining me now, publisher of Impact Wealth magazine, host of Media Exposed on Real America's Voice, PR guru Adam Weiss. Adam, great to have you on the program.
Kimberly, thanks for having me.
All right, fantastic. So looking, Adam, taking a look at the last 6 months of President Trump's second term, what do you believe is the single biggest narrative the mainstream media has kind of pushed that is truly like most divorced from the reality on the ground?
I think recently we had with that war, and then CNN was looking to dig anything negative, right, to crucify the administration. So it's a nonstop. We had Biden falling off stairs for four years. We had him closing shop at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We had him out to lunch, shaking hands with invisible people. Yet Trump has a little bit of a swollen leg, and there's hyperventilation from the media, right? So Carolyn Levitt had to go out and talk about veins today. Meanwhile, look at what they did with Biden. We had to cover up for 4 years. And his doctor and Jill's chief of staff is pleading the fifth on questions that have nothing to do with HIPAA violations or medical procedures. Can we see the double standard, Kimberly?
Yeah, I mean, obviously double standard for sure, Adam. And we've seen major news organizations reportedly settle lawsuits from the president. Okay. Does this trend suggest a new level of accountability?
Good for him. CBS, and then CBS. And recently, Croft, the main anchor of 60 Minutes, was on, I believe, Jon Stewart's, why did we have to settle? This is a new chat. We didn't have to do it. And both of them were having like this coming to Jesus moment, so upset that they settled, that they didn't do anything. What do you mean you didn't do anything? You manipulated a tape that Kamala Harris, an interview she did. She barely did any interviews. And then they purposely manipulated her answer to make her look better in a presidential election on the biggest evening newscast that sets the agenda. So let's say 60 Minutes kind of sets the agenda for the upcoming week. So they manipulated the tape to make her look better. And that's campaign violation. Good for Trump that he sued, even though he won. Mm-hmm. And they still can't admit their faults, right?
Mm-hmm. No, they won't do it. But at least, President Trump had the wherewithal to stick with it, to expose the truth. And it was not easy. And he hung in there. And it's important for accountability and, for him to be able to be vindicated for things that these people did to him that were outrageous. The public trust, Adam, in the media is truly at a historic low. What responsibility does the press have for that decline? And how has their coverage of the second Trump term exacerbated the issue?
I think there's similar to the second term, looking for every miscue, looking for every infighting. The difference is we have shows like shows like ours, major podcasts across the country that fight back right away, and social media, which is in full force. So once they do manipulate lies and come out with it, right away you can look on Twitter, right away you can look at Instagram and say, oh, that's not the truth, right? So we have a different kind of media, different kind of landscape, and Trump fights back as he always does, but it's a newer Trump. It's a different Trump. He does it in a calmer way, a more easygoing way, a more mature way this time around than the first time. He doesn't go into nasty rhetoric as much as he used to the first time around, where I think Pete Hegseth should learn from President Trump to be a little calmer when you fight back with the media. Maybe you can give Pete a lesson from your old days at Fox on when you fight back, you can say the same words, but if you do it in a different manner, it comes across much better.
That's your media training segment on here. So with the rise of...
You know what I want to say? The way they treat women, right? This is another thing. Accomplished women like yourself will be an ambassador shortly. Hopefully, I have to change the name to Ambassador KG. But all those brilliant women, Susie Wiles, Linda McMahon, Pam Bondi, where are the profiles of Melania? Where are the profiles of the first ever chief of staff woman in the White House? There was glaring coverage of John Pierre, the spokesperson, over and over again. She's probably the worst spokesperson of all time. The lies, the manipulation. She couldn't even stumble through a press conference. But there's an obvious double standard. You can't have any glowing coverage of all these amazing women throughout the administration. And we noticed that's the media, and that's the double standard.
With the rise, as we've discussed before, of alternative media podcasts like ours, social media and independent journalists, do you believe legacy media outlets are becoming, less relevant, or are they digging in even harder to shape a singular narrative?
I think they probably dig in harder, but look at Jake Tapper, right? He's got the show. He comes up with this book with the gentleman from Axios. And they're running around talking about the hidden Biden, mishaps, the hidden Biden. Meanwhile, you were in on it the whole time, and yet CNN gives him glowing coverage after coverage after segment to make his book grow. I mean, it's almost malfeasance. It's manipulative what they're doing. It's unethical what they're doing. You're in on the cover up, and then you write a book about the cover up like you were never in on it. So
I know, it's insane.
So. It's insane what the media does, and it's silly what they do. And thankfully, people called them out. I mean, hopefully you didn't win on I guess he was afraid to go on your show, but
yeah.
Megyn Kelly gave him a big slapping when he came on. He probably thought, oh, they're so clueless. He probably thought it was the Megyn Kelly from the NBC days, and she's not going to be that harsh with me because they probably don't watch, alternative media too much. And she gave her a big slapping, Jake Tapper.
It's so funny. These people, you think they'd be smart, but sometimes just bad at life. So speaking of, if you could offer one piece of advice to a mainstream journalist, covering the second Trump term, what would it be, to encourage more fair and balanced reporting?
Just be somewhat fair,
Try a little bit.
Somewhat fair down the middle, give people on the half of the country, more than half of the country, another shot. Look at them in a different light. There are other places in America besides LA, New York, DC, and give them another shot because people do want to watch alternatives. I was on this News Nation recently, and a guy came up to me at a reality star. He said, I just saw you on News Nation, and I loved it. And I said, why? And he said, because they're right down the middle, and I don't want to hear an echo chamber on the left and right, and that's why I watch it all the time. So people do want to give alternative outlets or other outlets like CNN if they're fair.
And where do you think, and do you direct people where we can watch, media exposure and learn, more?
Media exposure, it's on Real America's Voice News. It's a free app. Obviously, it's on the website, and you can watch it on all the streaming platforms, Roku, Samsung, Pluto Plus, Apple, all the different streaming platforms. But now that's the way to be, is on streaming platforms. Seems like every TV you bought is automatically comes with it. And I'm on Sunday at 6 p.m.
True.
You watch me on the Tube TV, or you can just watch me on the app or website. on Media Exposed. And every week we call out the media, and I always have enough content. Can you imagine? It's easy.
It's easy.
This week we did sports. We did, look at this. Trump goes on and celebrates with FIFA, right? He brings soccer to the United States in Jersey. Big celebration. And the media's writing stories that he stayed on stage too long. Just anything to go after him.
It's so sad, and it seems so, petty and small and pathetic. You know what I'm saying? It's just like they miss the big picture, they miss the story, and they wonder why they don't have the viewers, because they lack any honesty or authenticity or relevance at this point. I mean, it's just sort of so predictable that it's mundane. I don't know. What's not predictable is Media Exposed, and congrats on your show, my dear friend. How long have we know each other? Like 20 years or something?
No, 17, but we won't tell people.
I meant 5.
At least you still look the same.
Oh, you're sweet. You're sweet. You know me a long time. That is for sure. Just want to say thank you for coming on, Adam. We love to have you. We'll have you on again. Thank you so much. And everybody check out his program.
Thank you, Kimberly. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. And in closing, the media is supposed to act as the fourth branch of government, right? As a check on power and to get out the truth. But legacy media lost their way. And it's really the American people who unfortunately pay the price. It's why free and independent voices are finding more and more of an audience, and why Americans made their voices loud and clear in the last election. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Please be sure to download the Rumble app, subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, like and share, and tell all your friends so they know exactly where to find us. And please also be sure to follow me across all platforms: X, Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Stay tuned to Rumble for all the very latest breaking news coverage. There's a lot of it. And don't miss Don Jr.'s big show live at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again very soon. God bless.